Good morning. My name is Clarence Jones, and I'm a lifelong Congress Park resident, a father, a youth football coach for the Southeast Tar Heels, and a change maker in my community. I am honored. Thank you. I am honored to welcome you to today's event, which is about the next steps the DC government is taking to reduce gun violence. Gun violence has taken too many lives in my community and in many other communities across our city. I am a Ballou High School graduate and an emergency medical technician. My life experience have made me care deeply for my city and its citizens. It has taught me to treat people as if they were my own family, a lesson I try to pass down to the young men that I work with. In my professional life, I witnessed firsthand the trauma of first gun violence. Growing up, I lost family, friends, associates to senseless things that I am sure could have been resolved with just dialogue, not violence. Today you will hear about several new DC government investments in prevention work, but I want to take a moment to tell you about the one that touches me personally, helping my community, Congress Park, launch a movement for peace. When one of my longtime friends, Miss Cynthia Murphy, who works at the Wanzer office, reached out to me 2 months ago to let me know that Wanzer was thinking about expanding to Congress Park, I was glad to hear the news. I had a vision for how I wanted to help my community, but didn't know how or where to start. When the Wanzer team brought me and dozens of other community members together, this expansion, what they didn't do is tell us, here's what's about to happen. Instead, they asked the community the most important questions. What do you need? How can we help? Since Wanzer first reached out to me and these other community advocates, we have come together to strategize, budget, and debate on multiple occasions. Getting community consensus is hard, but the Wanzer team has kept their word. They are helping us find a good starting place for the hard work to come and have kept us focused on our shared mission, building a safer Congress Park for current and future generations. Changing the community is a collective effort. I am excited to be a part of this movement for peace and unity, and I am thankful to Mayor Bowser for investing in the critical work the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and Building Blocks DC is doing. And so without further delay, I am honored to introduce you to Mayor Bowser.
Thank you, my dear.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you. Let's give Clarence a big round of applause. Good morning, everybody, and I am just pleased to welcome you to the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, and we are also privileged to be joined by its founder and our former First Lady, Cora Masters-Berry. Give Cora a big round of applause. As you heard from Clarence, today we're here to announce new efforts in our work, our collective work to end gun violence in our city. We know for sure that responding isn't enough. Preventing gun violence is our focus because ultimately we know a focus on prevention will save lives. And violence prevention requires everyone's support, everyone's effort, and everyone to be accountable. Families, community, and faith-based organizations and government agencies. And so that was the thinking some 5 years ago when we created from scratch the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement 4 years ago. We also know that gun violence is a public health emergency. When we think about the young people who have died senselessly on the streets, healthy, having a lifetime ahead of them, and gunned down. We know that this epidemic of gun violence has only gotten worse during the pandemic. And that is why, and when we launched Building Blocks DC earlier this year, Building Blocks takes a lot of things that we learned in our emergency COVID response, interagency effort, coordinated at the top, to make sure that all of the agencies of DC government and the public have what they need in this fight against gun violence. The team, they are the team who is responsible for getting everyone to the table, coordinating a path forward, and then supporting agencies as they execute that vision. So today I am joined by the district's first gun violence director, Linda Harley Harper. Give Linda a big round of applause. By Dale McFadden, the district's first director of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Chris Geltart. And they are part of our public safety team. These teams represented work behind the scenes every day to extricate people from cycles of violence. They connect individuals who are at risk of violence, who have a history of violence, to employment opportunities. They host healing events for trauma survivors. They ensure that environmental issues in the community are addressed, whether it's a broken street light, a pothole, illegal dumping. If it's an issue that sends the wrong message about the community, these are the teams that are flagging down the right agencies and getting them fixed. And while these efforts are steadily changing lives, we have, everyone will agree, a lot of work to do. So today we are announcing the expansion of our violence prevention and interruption efforts. Building Blocks is getting ready to make $1.1 million in grants available to organizations who commit to working together to address gun violence. That's a big number. I believe that we may have some grantees here, like Joanna Hardy, who is the founder of Guns Down Friday. Where is she? And I want to thank all of the grantees for their commitment. The Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement is also expanding. We see some of our folks on our teams right behind me, and they are expanding to new communities. Congress Park in Ward 8, Shaw in Ward 2, and Edgewood in Ward 5. The office is also launching a floating violence intervention team that will respond to incidents of violence and facilitate peacemaking efforts. We're also using $4.5 million in federal funds to expand the highly successful Pathways program so that it can serve 130 at-risk residents in 2022, which is a big number. Pathways is the program that receives referrals from violence interrupters, community-based violence prevention programs, CSOSA, and other credible community contacts. It provides participants with intensive support and in their personal and professional goals. You know, a lot of us know somebody who, you know, just seems off on the wrong track, right? We know that person. We know them, they're in our lives. We're concerned that if they don't make some different choices, they might not be with us. They'll end up dead or in jail. We know somebody like that. We know somebody who's for years and years have had barriers to employment and opportunity. But we know in their hearts, we know their hearts. We know that they want to make a different step and go on a bit different path. We know they want to live. We know they want to raise their families. That's who these programs are for. All right? So it's not easy because in some cases people have made really tough choices. But we want to make sure that everything we can do as a government and community, we are doing. And that's what the Pathways program is for. Violence interrupters encounter folks like this each and every day. And we want them to know that there's a pathway for them to get out of violence. So finally, I also want to take a moment to say a big thank you to our violence interrupters and peacemakers across the city for their commitment to reducing gun violence in our city. Thank you. So I get the opportunity, of course, like many of you, to go in every ward and every community around Washington. And people want to know that we are working together to put every resource towards bending the curve of violence that is affecting our community right now. And I know that DC residents have my commitment to do exactly that. Are you with me on that? Yes. That's what we're here for. Okay, so with that, I'm pleased to introduce Director McFadden, who once again directs the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, to talk about the ONCE expansion, and then we'll hear from Director Harley Harper about our citywide gun violence prevention efforts. Dale.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. First, I want to acknowledge outcomes of the Pathways program. We have 3 young gentlemen that's here working for D.C. government who came through the program. Can we give them a round of applause? And can we give Mr. Clarence Jones a round of applause for his work? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Dale McFadden, Director of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, the first director. At the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, we believe that it is possible to radically reduce gun violence by giving individuals a safe space to heal and services that provide opportunities for a better life. Since Mayor Bowser launched our office in 2017, my dedicated team has been focused on doing just that. We have developed a continuum of services that provide early interventions to individuals most at risk of being involved in incidents driven by community violence, and we have established a team that provides healing services to survivors and families. To make our city safer and stronger, we must continue to develop, scale, and evolve evidence-based violence intervention strategies. Scaling safely requires incremental steps, and if you've been following the journey of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement over the past 4 years, you've seen that play out in real time. In 2018, we spoke excitedly about the launch of an intensive new violence prevention program for at-risk residents called the Pathways Program. And we partnered with 3 incredible community organizations: Far Southeast Family Strengthening Collaborative, who is here today, Training Grounds, and Collaborative Solutions for Communities, to renew frontline violence intervention in the district after a long absence. This work has been gone for a while. We resurrected it with the support of our mayor. In 2019, we launched our school-based prevention pilot, the ONCE Leadership Academy at Anacostia High School. In 2020, we navigated service delivery in a pandemic. We never stopped working. The VIs were constantly out there. While the COVID-19 pandemic brought tough challenges to the district and our work, the ONCE team continued to find ways to wage peace and bring hope and opportunity to our clients and community. And in 2021, we expanded the ONCE Leadership Academy to serve 2 more schools and launch our restorative justice program. Since our founding, each year has brought us additional programming to develop our services continuum and more staff and funding to increase our capacity to serve DC residents. Building Blocks DC and our comprehensive approach to addressing gun violence in our city. Today's announcement is about next steps in our work, made possible through Building Blocks DC, strategic investments. Thank you, Director Harley Harper. Okay, y'all can clap. Don't be shy. Y'all act like y'all shy. These investments includes $9.6 million in federal funds to expand and intensify our violence intervention and prevention work, and $4.5 million in federal funds to expand the Pathways program. The mayor talked about early, expanding that to 130 individuals. ONCE will be expanding our violence intervention efforts to 3 new communities, Congress Park, Shaw, and Edgewood, to serve a total of 25 priority communities. We selected these new communities based on crime data, peace negotiation strategy, and community insight. I'd like to thank my team for this hard work. The level of The level of gun violence in Congress Park is unacceptable, and it impacts quality of life of every community member. As Congress Park resident Mr. Jones shared earlier, our team is centering the voices of the community and developing a strategy to bring violence intervention services to this community. The Edgewood community plays an important role in maintaining and advancing our current peacemaking efforts in Ward 5. And the Shaw community will be critically important to the peacemaking efforts we are embarking upon with our existing Northwest communities, Ledroit, Park, Parkview, Petworth, Brightwood, and Columbia Heights. For those residents who don't live in one of our existing or new priority communities, I want you to know that we will soon have a new resource to serve your neighborhood should it be impacted by violence. Using our federal funds, early next year, WANS will be creating a floating team of violence interrupters who will be responsible for responding to critical incidents and assisting with peace negotiations wherever they are needed. If you know a dynamic individual, this is important, y'all. If you know a dynamic individual who can assist us in the streets, make sure you encourage them to apply when hiring starts. We'll have further information on that. The final update on the expansion of our violence intervention services relates to intensifying our work. We will be increasing the number of violence interrupters in each of our existing communities to ensure adequate coverage. This means WANS violence interrupters will be operating in 25 communities across 7 of the district's 8 wards, and will increase the number of staff and contractors dedicated to this work to over 80 individuals. I want to take a moment to talk about how we measure the impact of violence intervention work. One of the biggest challenges to sharing the success stories of WANS work is the difficulty quantifying the number of violent crimes averted and lives not lost due to our prevention and intervention efforts. However, since the launch of these services, WANS has been closely tracking crime data in each of our priority communities. There are 2 data points that we believe are important indicators of our success in this work: the number of incidents of gun crimes and the number of gun homicides in our priority communities. I'm encouraged to report that in 2020, WANS priority communities experienced an overall decrease in gun crimes and gun homicides. Year to date this year, we have sustained those reductions. At the end of this month, we will be posting this data for each of our priority communities, and moving forward, we'll be updating it on a quarterly basis so the community can have a better understanding of our impact. I started in this work as a violence interrupter many moons ago. Those of us embedded in this work know the struggle and gratification of this work. Some days we are driven by hope, and some days by righteous anger. Most days a mixture of both. Even though we talk about a whole of government approach, we know this work cannot be done by the government alone. This is a whole of city approach. To those partners who have been working in lockstep with us since day one, in the trenches, in the sandbox, and to those who are just now joining this fight to wage peace, thank you, thank you. And I also would like to thank Madam Mayor. It is my pleasure to now introduce you to my partner in peace, Director Linda Harley Harper.
Good morning. Good morning. I am so excited to be here because this room reflects a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment and love for this city, and a lot of concern about where we are with gun violence in this city. We know that we need more resources, and we are here today to announce those resources. I'm here today to focus on the community-based grants. And one of the things since I've been in the role since February is that hearing from residents about their ideas around how we can address gun violence. We certainly know that we don't have all the answers, but we do know that together we can solve this issue. Together, we are co-creating public safety for the District of Columbia. We have realized some successes. We know that we have a lot of work to do. We are all so very much traumatized by the gun violence that's going on in our communities, and we have a lot of work to continue to do. I want to share with you today about the community-based grants. In FY21, the mayor committed $750,000 in community-based grants. We partnered with the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services and with the Progressive Life Center to issue and administer those grants. The mayor earlier mentioned Joanna Hardy. I want to acknowledge that she's here now. And Joanna represents what the grants can accomplish. Joanna is a DC resident who had been working in her communities, coming out of her own pocket, operating Guns Down Friday, and Building Blocks was able to offer her her very first grant. The grant process that we have created is a teachable moment for those who are intimidated or unaware of how grants operate. And the idea is to empower residents and organizations to not only go for building blocks grants, but to feel empowered to also go and compete for other dollars outside of building blocks grants. And so I'm so excited about Ms. Hardy and how she has been able to grow from this granting process. Moving on, I'm going to say that for FY22, and thank you, Mayor Bowser, we have doubled those dollars. We are putting $1.1 million into community-based grants in the city. The mini grants have already been launched, and they are in the review process now. We received 79 applications from residents, and they are going through the review process now. The review panel includes city residents, faith leaders, and leaders of community-based organizations. We will be awarding 20 of the grants. The grants will be notified and awarded. The announcement for the grants, will be on Friday, December 17th, and the Progressive Life Center will be making that announcement. We also will be releasing, and I'm pleased to announce, a larger RFA. We know that in our communities, we need to collaborate. Just as though we are taking on the whole of government approach, we know that our community needs to have a whole of community approach. This grant is going to be for collaboration, collaborative efforts towards preventing gun violence in our communities. This grant is going to have one grantee that is going to operate from March through September of 2022. We created an opportunity to co-create public safety with nonprofit organizations, and we are going to issue one grant. The application will be made available before the end of this year on the Progressive Life website. It will require 2 to 3 organizations to collaborate together. We are going to give a preference of a focus in a particular community, and we are still identifying those communities, but we also will consider citywide efforts that come across with very creative and innovative ideas. The next round that we're going to do of mini grants will be in the spring, and then there will be a third one later on in the year, and we also will do get prepared for FY23. So with that being said, I encourage you to please spread the word about the availability of this funding. If you have great ideas, you know nonprofits who are working in this space, who are committed to co-creating public safety, please help us to spread the word and encourage them to collaborate with some of those other organizations who are also doing the work. We know that together we can co-create public safety and improve the District of Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is all good news, talking about how we are expanding our violence interruption efforts into additional communities and also deepening our commitment to community-based organizations. Some years ago, I created the mini grants program in a different format because what we learned in going from community to community, people were doing a lot of the work in making connections and referring people, but it was in a way that was disconnected from the government and disconnected from funds that were available. So simplifying those processes and helping people apply for those grant dollars has helped us in innumerable ways. So with that, we'll take a few questions. Yes, Sam.
Yes, Mayor, we just heard Mr. McFadden say essentially that it's hard to assess what didn't happen, in terms of somebody that didn't get shot. But can you tell us are there examples of successes that you see, that you actually, can you tell us a story or something about efforts that were made that you thought prevented violence?
Yes, I'll ask Dale to come up. And on his way, he also said something else, and I don't want you to lose that there are definitely metrics that we follow in each of the priority areas where we're investing in, looking at the number of gunshots and the number of fatalities related to those gunshots. And what we have seen that is going to be regularly reported for each priority area are those numbers. Dale.
Yes, there are numerous stories. I will not go into details, but anytime a situation takes place where there's a shooting, the VIs go into both communities to make sure that there's not retaliation. They focus on the Tier 1, Tier 2 individuals, those who are most likely to respond. That has happened numerous times, and I know for sure that if it wasn't for the work of the violence interrupters, that the number that we're looking at presently would be much higher than it is right now. I know that for sure.
So you're saying there are examples where there was a shooting and violence interrupters talked to people on both sides, and you believe based on that there was not a retaliation?
Yes,
Is that
I
what
do.
You're saying?
Yes, I do. I know of numerous occasions where individuals are taken out of the city, where individuals are basically involved in pro-social activities after a shooting, after situations, to get them away so that they can't respond to these situations.
One thing I also was interested in, Mayor, we had a shooting, I guess, overnight in Columbia Heights, like the metro station. What do you do when you hear about things like this? This is like the third one I've heard about in that general area. How does this factor in? Because I don't think that area is not one of your new areas.
It's not one of our new areas, but it is an area that we're very much involved in and have been involved in. Columbia Heights has experiences too much gun violence. And we're working hand in hand with our violence interrupters and the police to deal with what's happening, and coordinating with the Metro Systems Police Department as well. Unfortunately, a lot of negative activity is happening around that metro station or even in the system. So our coordination among the law enforcement agencies continues until we are figuring out who's responsible for that gun violence. Yes, James.
This may be for you or
Okay.
Linda Harley Harper.
Yes.
We're talking about government.
Yep.
We're talking about the nonprofit sector. Have you all reached out to the private sector in terms of support? In terms of jobs, in terms of support, in terms of just money, period?
Hi, thank you for that question. I will share with you that the mayor committed 110 D.C. government jobs to building blocks, and we have been able to successfully, up to this point, connect D.C. residents to 80 of those D.C. government jobs. She also challenged me that we know that we cannot grow the government to meet the needs, employment needs of the city. We have held 2 Jobs Not Guns job fairs, and I want to acknowledge Ms. Rosalind Stiles, who's here, who served as our partner and who has, she's also a Building Blocks grantee, but she has held 2 Jobs Not Guns job fairs, which brought in private employers who were willing to offer D.C. residents a second chance, to be able to know that when you came into the Washington Sports and Entertainment Complex, that there would be employers there who knew that you may have background challenges and were willing to work with you anyway. And we had over 250 district residents to register for that particular Jobs Not Guns. The first one was at Martin Luther King Library. And we also had job resources there that helped with resumes, interviewing skills. We had apprenticeship programs. It was a partnership between private and public. It is we are looking forward to having the next one. And the idea is to bring the jobs and the private employers to the community for the residents.
Let me just emphasize a point there. Everybody is hiring right now in the city. There are more jobs than people applying for jobs right now in the city. So our challenge is to make sure everybody knows it, do all the help that we can up front, also ensure, as Linda has already mentioned, that even people with background challenges are in line for jobs. Let me repeat, everybody is hiring. And there are more jobs available right now than people are looking for jobs. So when we talk about the types of jobs that D.C. government can provide, the private sector is really looking for a lot of people to work. Yep.
I'm Betty Castillo from City Paper. Hi. So on the overall note of accountability, there's a video that's been circulating and that was brought to the attention of Director Harper, perhaps McFadden, regarding VIs, potentially from ones or building blocks DC, involved in an altercation in a Las Vegas casino. So I wanted to know what your response is to that video, your reaction.
I'm not familiar with the video.
So we are aware of the video. An altercation is not the way I would describe it. I would describe it as a verbal dispute out of town. But what I would like to focus on is the fact that the violence interrupters connect the persons that we are trying to reach with services. And so when I mentioned the fact that we've actually, Building Blocks has connected over 130 district residents to employment opportunities since February. And a lot of that is because of the violence interrupters helping to prepare them and connect them to the job opportunities. I think that that is what we should try to spread and share just as much as we would share about a verbal disagreement.
So just a follow-up, do you know the full story of what happened, who was involved, and what led to the incident or to the verbal disagreement, as you said?
Sure. What I will say is that from the clips that I've seen, none of them show the whole story, and so I don't want to comment on it. I think that it was a part. The clip was, as social media does, the title of it and the clip was just a small portion that spread very widely. And so I encourage us to spread the good news just as fast as we do with the other news.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. Last month, the Office of the Attorney General expanded its Cure the Streets violence reduction efforts into 4 new neighborhoods. Obviously, Cure the Streets employs similar intervention interruption efforts, and those neighborhoods were Congress Heights, Brightwood Park, Petworth, Cora, Ivy City, and historic Anacostia. I'm curious if there was any coordination with Cure the Streets on these 2 expansions that are happening around the same
Sure. Linda and Deputy Mayor Geltard coordinate with the Office of the Attorney General.
And I just wanted to follow up also on the number of interrupters. I believe Mr. McFadden said there are 80 individuals total, correct?
Well, that's what we're building to.
Okay, how many more are being added with this expansion?
50, around 50.
Okay, thank you.
Darcy, we're going to do the press and then I'll come to you.
Hi, Mayor. A lot to unfold here as far as gun violence. You know, we've seen the increase in homicides. Just sadly this week we had the KIPP student who passed away after being shot Friday night. And just tragic, and these things continue to happen, and we are talking about violence and prevention, but you know, a lot of people are saying what's going to happen in the more immediate future. I'm curious at how long will it take to get the folks, you know, trained and in the streets and really start seeing results of
this is what I've learned in the 4 years that we've been out at this, Darcy. These are very long-term interventions. These are not acute fixes. And we need both. We need to invest in the long-term fixes that are in communities, that are building up new nonprofit organizations, that are connecting people to work, that are getting people trauma-informed care. But we should think about them as a long investment. When we have acute incidences, that's what we have law enforcement for. And as you know, just as we're talking about indicators where we place violence interrupters on a daily basis, Chief Conti and our entire public safety team is looking at where the police can make a difference, and that's what we're focused on.
I was asked a COVID-related question. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the writing here. Apparently, daily case numbers are going up. And for the past few days, is there a concern about that, and what does it reflect?
I don't think that anybody is surprised that case rates are going up. They're going up nationally, and we won't be immune to that. Our focus is on making sure that what D.C. residents have to do. What do they have to do? Get vaccinated. Hear me? What do D.C. residents have to do? Get vaccinated. And that includes getting a booster when you are eligible to get a booster. And that includes, and I'm looking at our partners here at Southeast Tennyson Learning Center, our 5 to 11-year-olds. They have to get vaccinated. There's a safe, free, reliable vaccine that is going to help us get on the other side of this pandemic. We're very focused on a layered mitigation strategy to prevent the spread. So we're asking people to be smart, wear masks indoors, wash your hands, stay home when sick, limit your activities if you're in a high risk group, and all of those things will help us get over over this pandemic. Any other questions? All right, community.
Hi, I want to say I'm about to do what you call adopt a block, and I noticed I went around Jasper Place, all up Alabama, and I noticed that all through that area it is so dark. I wonder, have you guys just did a tour and lighten up those streets? Because once they start shooting, I noticed that when they want to shoot, if they see a block that's really lit up, they're not really gonna do it. Like in the alleys where people park their cars, we need more lights.
Okay.
That will brighten up the street because it's really dark.
Okay.
And I think that would be a good way to start as far as that. Going through the neighborhood, look at the lights and
all right, that is a good recommendation. Even if we have to do it on a temporary basis, I know from time to time we deploy light towers, so let's think about that. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you, everybody. And we have some agency partners here around the room that have some additional information that is available to all of our community serving organizations. So thank you very much.